Hello and welcome to CMMI Tech Talk. In this video, we will do a deep dive into the practice area of Supplier Agreement Management, SAM, and its corresponding capability area, Selecting and Managing Suppliers, SMS. The Supplier Agreement Management practice area has been enhanced in version 3.0 of the CMMI model with some interesting changes. Previously, the Selecting and Managing Suppliers, or SMS capability area, was comprised of two practice areas, SAM and Supplier Source Selection, or SSS. However, in version 3.0, the two practice areas have been merged into the single practice area of SAM. For this Tech Talk, we will examine these additions to SAM and highlight some of the existing content in SAM that is highly important, focusing on practice group levels 1 to 3. Let's start by looking at the intent and value of this practice area. The intent selects qualified suppliers, establishes agreements, and manages the resulting supplier and acquirer activities over the term of the agreement. Value maximizes the probability of mutual success for acquirers and suppliers. The value statement provides the key to why this practice area is important, highlighting that the relationship between an organization and its suppliers should ideally be mutually beneficial. If we create an environment in which our supplier can be successful, that will often mean that we get what we need, when we need it, and to the right level of quality. Ultimately, we benefit too. The intent statement indicates the ingredients that are important to that successful relationship. We need to choose the right supplier, put in place a workable agreement on both sides, and then proactively manage that relationship. These may seem obvious and easy things to do, but it is rarely the case. Often, this is because the greatest weighting is given solely to financial considerations in managing supplier relationships. While cost is highly important, we will see in this Tech Talk that cost needs to be balanced with other factors such as quality, performance, and customer satisfaction to achieve success. Let's look at the 4 practices in Level 1. As usual, the Level 1 practices highlight what is rudimentary or fundamental to addressing a CMMI practice area. We can see in the practice summary table that the 4 Level 1 practices deal with selecting a supplier, putting in place an agreement for what they are going to do, and then determining whether what they do is acceptable or not before paying them for what they have done. This broadly describes the expected characteristics of managing supplier relationships. We can now focus on how this basic story evolves in the Level 2 and 3 practices. However, before we move on from the Level 1 practices, those of you who may know of SAM from prior model versions will recognize that practices 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4 are identical to the previous content. Practice 1.1 constitutes the only new material at this level and encompasses the material that was previously contained in the SSS Level 1 practices. The basic principles established in these Level 1 practices are then solidified in the Level 2 practices. Practices 2.1 and 2.2 again introduce material from SSS into SAM. The SAM 2.1 practice is intended to ensure that the selection of appropriate suppliers is conducted in the most objective manner. The key to doing this is the rigorous application of a criteria-based selection approach. Identifying the relevant criteria should ideally reflect what behaviors and capabilities that we need from our suppliers to maximize our chances of success. Price often plays a significant part, of course, but we must be mindful that short-term cost efficiency can sometimes mask long-term inefficiencies and spiraling costs. Frequently, managers have an idea of which supplier they would like to work with, and it is common for criteria to be changed or weighted in favor of their preferences. This often can be done unconsciously. Including multiple voices from affected stakeholders to identify suitable criteria can help to address this, and applying rigorous scrutiny to finalizing the criteria and their relative weighting. This is an area where the DAR practice can be leveraged to select a supplier. For SAM 2.2, evaluating potential supplier submissions against the criteria must be conducted with high integrity. Once again, using a team approach can help to overcome individual biases. It is important to balance groupthink or individual bias with objective and rigorous application of evaluation criteria. Practice 2.3 may constitute the largest amount of effort in managing suppliers. Once we have a supplier selected and an agreement in place, we manage their interaction with our organization, emphasizing a proactive approach. The word used in the practice is deliberately manage. This means there needs to be some ongoing interaction between a development project and its component suppliers, or between a service team and the third party fulfilling part of the service delivery. We should not passively wait for deliverables to arrive or results to be demonstrated, but instead actively plan where it is sensible for us to interact and gain confidence that alignment of our respective work is being maintained. This does not mean micromanagement of the supplier. If we have done our selection process correctly, we should have confidence that they can perform. In the same way as we trust our staff to implement processes effectively and use project management and quality assurance techniques to ensure sufficient progress, we need to do something similar with our suppliers. Practice 2.4 may seem straightforward, but it is a common challenge for supplier deliverables to be accepted. Then later, to discover that their software does not pass basic unit testing, or the user guide was not submitted along with the package. It is important to utilize acceptance criteria and procedures to confirm that the agreement is satisfied for each deliverable. The two practices at level 3 substantially build upon the practices at level 1 and level 2. Remember, at level 3, there is an organizational perspective, which includes leveraging organizational standards and assets and benefiting from lessons learned and applied from the organization's previous experience. On the surface, Practice 3.1 is an extension of Practice 2.3. However, further examination of the practice material suggests applying criteria again to determine which supplier deliverables to analyze and review. These criteria should be influenced by the operational priorities of our work, and they can often include lessons from previous supplier management work. Practice 3.2 is often seen as one of the most challenging practices in the model. It appears to ask us to manage our suppliers' processes. How can we do that? We have little or no authority to implement change in their organization. So how do we even know how they are doing things? This is sometimes interpreted as organizations needing a supplier quality function that conducts audits of suppliers' processes. This is indeed one way of achieving the intent of this practice, but it is not always a viable option. Often the insights we have on supplier processes are far more restricted. The question becomes, how can we address this, where our insights into the functioning of a supplier organization may be quite limited? The clue lies once again in the practice statement. It states at the beginning of the sentence, manage supplier performance. It is the outcome of the supplier's work that is important to us. We need to ask questions about what aspects of our supplier's performance are crucial to our own success. If on-time delivery to our customers is a key component of our success, then will this be detrimentally affected if our supplier habitually delivers late? And if the amount of waste in our manufacturing activities is affected by the handling features of a crucial supplier-provided component, then the quality of their products and possibly designs will be important to us. It is vital that we assess the level of risk of the supplier's deliverables as compared to successfully meeting our goals, and then apply the appropriate level of corresponding rigor to our monitoring activities. For example, when you compare two deliverables, one, the generation of a status report, and two, software that will be used for a medical device, the software for the medical device is higher risk and more impactful, and therefore more rigorous activities and monitoring as compared to the generation of a report is expected. One approach to addressing this is to look internally and determine what aspects of our own performance are affected by some features of the supplier's performance or product. Then we want to see if we can measure this performance somehow and use this information to inform our management interactions with the supplier. It may also affect whether we retain a supplier in the long run. For insights on the Level 4 practice SAM 4.1, check out the Tech Talk on SAM 4.1 where we dive deeper into how to statistically manage your suppliers. The overall key to understanding this practice area in version 3.0 can be summarized as recognizing that SAM has been enhanced in version 3.0 to incorporate the material previously contained in the SSSPA. Objective criteria applied rigorously are essential to selecting the right suppliers and should leverage the DAR practices. Plans should integrate supplier activities into our project and operational activities. This does not mean micromanaging suppliers, but does necessitate careful consideration of where we are dependent on each other. Understanding how what the supplier does affects our performance allows us to ask appropriate questions about how we need them to perform, and more importantly, how we are going to verify that we are getting that performance. Thank you for joining us for the CMMI Tech Talk. If you have questions, please contact us at support.isaca.org.